All right now. It's you heard the music. You know what the bell, for whom the bell tolls. Now, it is not guaranteed, nothing set in stone just yet. Things can always change, but as things change right now, I had to make sure that we talk about this because this could be one of the greatest impacts to not only just content creators and content marketers, but small business as a whole. Because this is the platform that has literally helped hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands of small businesses, entrepreneurs, content marketers, content creators, marketing agencies, a little bit of everything, right? Not only all over the world, but specifically in the US to either create a business, grow their business, and most importantly, save their business, especially after the pandemic of COVID-19. That was literally just a few years ago, right? And we're still seeing the effects of it. We're going to continue to see the effects of it. Hell, I'm sick right now. Don't have COVID, thank God, but I am sick right now. But I had to make sure that we talk about this because this is the biggest impact to businesses online in quite some time. And we could literally see businesses go away if TikTok is truly banned. And I say if because I'm not going to go on some fear mongering. I'm not going to go on some clickbaity stuff. The truth is that we all know at the last minute, governments, businesses, they come to terms and they make negotiations and agreements. There's conversations happening that the majority of the people and the pundits online don't have any insight to, including myself, right? But as an entrepreneur, as a freelancer, as a business owner, it would be foolish of me not to share, especially when my focus is digital marketing and branding. It would be foolish not to share at least opportunities that are out there and just, share real information, real facts, not a bunch of, just a bunch of scandal and a bunch of opinions that are running around out there. So what we're going to get into right now is everything that's going on with TikTok, potentially life without TikTok. That's what we're going to focus on, and what you can use to your advantage. What other tools are out there? But of course, we're going to touch on just a little bit the history, maybe even the controversy, but overall the impact and the opportunities that are out there if TikTok is removed, at least from the US market, and opportunities to utilize that platform. Let's get it. All right, now, y'all, the rising controversy of TikTok. Now, please excuse my voice. Like I said, I'm still recovering from being sick here, but hey, got to keep it going, got to keep it moving, especially when something like this is about to occur or could occur and impact all small businesses and content marketers. One of the things to keep in mind is that TikTok was around. It really blew up after a merger, but it was around for a few years before it acquired Musical.ly, which is really what launched it into basically the stratosphere, because not only the acquisition of those accounts, this was back in 2017, and when they fully merged in 2018, it was not only the acquisition of those accounts that sent it through the roof, but it was also the tactics that they employed, which could be one of the reasons, and that's one of the things we're going to cite in a moment, could be one of the reasons that it garnered a lot of attention from certain authorities and certain agencies around the world, but especially and specifically, of course, where we're talking about the potential ban here in the US. It was their tactics of growth and their tactics to compete. Although you got to be competitive, you got to make sure you carve out your lane and get market share. That most likely is what started the attention from its competitors, and not just the growth in taking a market share, but also in how it was acquiring some of the top influencers and rising influencers on all different platforms. So as stated, TikTok was around in 2016. That's when it was originally launched. Okay, and of course it has the original TikTok, if you will, or the sister platform, if you will, is still based in China, in the parent company, ByteDance, which is a Chinese company, just to keep that note. They do have offices based here in the US. Specifically, the largest office is in California. They created a US version, if you will, or an outside of mainland China version of their platform, and that is what we use today as TikTok. They then purchased Musically back in 19. They then purchased and fully merged with Musically in 2018, which encompassed a lot of the same technology that you see still to this day on TikTok, which is why Musically, including its license to use music from major music distribution and production companies, which is a very important factor of the growth of TikTok, right? Was the full license and the full use of hundreds, if not thousands, of some of the most popular songs in the world, not just America, not just on the internet, in the entire world, right? And to freely use them in all their content. That is a significant competitive advantage that it had over its pretty much competitors, even though we're not talking about just in short form, we're talking about overall in all social media. Okay. And because of the fact that the company because ByteDance is a Chinese-based company, there always have been concerns that user data could be accessed at any time, although that has never been proven and still has not been proven just yet, that anyone's data has been illegally accessed and used by a foreign government. Keep that in mind. That has not been proved yet. That is a concern of the U.S. Supreme Court. That is a concern of governing bodies in the United States. That has not occurred just yet. So just keep that in mind at the time of this recording, at least, to always have the platform under suspicion due to the fact that data could be accessed, because the Chinese government does have the right to do so with companies that are based or specifically headquartered in mainland China. Now, the impact of TikTok, this is the big one. And this is why I said I'm not going to go too much into necessarily the rise of it. We're going to focus more on the impact. We're going to focus more on what you can do afterwards, because that's really where it's coming from. Because let's be honest, there's about 5 or 6, maybe even 20 other platforms that if they did go away, jobs are going to get lost, right? We always have to keep that in mind. Like, people talk about these things, and I'm coming from a small business world. I'm coming from an entrepreneurial world, right? So I think of jobs being lost. That's one of the first things I focus on. Not only could that occur if TikTok's on, but let's just say there's about 20 other platforms. If they went away, that would be the biggest concern, right? There's not an abundance of users who rely on this as a vital cornerstone of their business, unlike with TikTok, where there are small businesses, there's entrepreneurs, their entire business is on a social media platform. And I'm going to come back to why that is a problem right off and I'm not probably what you're expecting, but I'm going to come to you real quick with as a problem. The impact of TikTok since the pandemic. And these are the stats that will make you think, really make you get concerned about the impact it has on small businesses and just the overall impact it has on culture in general. But we're focusing on the entrepreneurial and the small business side of things. So the crazy part about TikTok stats, number one, and this is the one that really blew up, and this is the one that caught my attention initially, which is not scary, but it's just something to think about if you're really paying attention to things. Interesting enough, between 21 and 23% of adults use TikTok in the US. That's a quarter. That's a crazy number of people, of adults specifically, right? We're talking about buying power. Overall, 33% of Americans in general regularly use TikTok. Once again, buying power, purchasing power. TikTok has 1.4 billion monthly active users monthly, not overall. In other words, just overall in the year. TikTok has 1.04 billion monthly active users worldwide. Now, if you really think about that in comparison to other platforms, the other major apps, specifically on your mobile device, where we're talking monthly users in the hundreds of millions, not the billions. This is where the competition, and this is where the concern from the competition has truly grown because of the rapid growth, and it hasn't slowed down. So here's an example. In 2018, TikTok had 55 million active monthly users. And remember when I talked about it a little earlier, the pandemic. When the pandemic hit, they had 2 to 500 million, which rapidly grows from 500 to 689 million. To the latter part of the pandemic, we're talking 800 million. As of May of last year, 1 billion. That is literally over 300 million people. 300 million people almost every year. That's insane. Now, from a business owner standpoint, if you have 21 to almost 30% of adults alone, just adults, who are regularly logging into this platform, that's a lot of spend. Although, based on the Pew Research, most people go to TikTok for entertainment, which makes perfect sense. And this is why some businesses have had challenges with any form of social media, because once again, social media is a way for us to connect. And the easiest way for people to connect is to be entertained. There's no question about that. A person's guard comes down when they are being entertained, when they're laughing, when they're crying, right? From watching a drama, or when they're afraid watching a thriller. The best way to connect with people is to entertain them. Not to say you should be always joking and funny, and you don't have to make, to say anything serious, and you darn sure don't have to, have facts. No, it's to say the biggest way for a person to let down their guard is to entertain them, because you want them to absorb the information. You want them to engage, right? And this is why TikTok is such an engaging platform. First off, it goes right to a natural instinct of ours to want to connect with people, right? We see people, we're connecting with them. But let's be honest, we don't have to have real relationships with them because it's still virtual. But then, because of our attention spans being shortened by pretty much every day, it feeds right into that. So it's quick bites of information. It's quick bites of endorphins. We're getting hits. We're literally getting hits of getting high, watching something new and entertaining, and just the endless scroll. Although, keep in mind, the endless scroll was not created by TikTok. So once again, TikTok was just taking elements of other platforms and optimizing them, if you will. That's the way I've always looked at it. They captured Musical.ly, and they took elements from Vine as well. Remember Vine? When it was this real quick bites of entertainment, real quick skits of action and activity. A lot of the Vine social influencers, they came over to TikTok as well. So building on what was done well before, and building on what others had maybe even failed upon to optimize platforms such as Instagram, Facebook, even Snapchat, TikTok has become a go-to business tool for everything from entrepreneurs talking about finance, small businesses working in factories, to restaurants, and of course, gotta love it, of course, even farmers. So the impact on small businesses, the scary part about TikTok and its numbers is that it's not strictly an entertainment platform. I say scary because it is becoming a go-to e-commerce platform by integrating a lot of e-commerce tools, which we brought up in a past episode about the marketing trends and the content marketing trends specifically, that we're going to see a lot more in those social media integrations. And TikTok is really literally leading the way in all of that. With more ways to sell on social, TikTok has become a go-to platform for doing just that. But let's get into the meat and potatoes of it all. Okay. That's the impact on social media. That's the impact on small businesses. That's the impact on marketing. Let's keep in mind of a few key pieces of that before we go into what if we don't have this anymore. TikTok provided a low-cost marketing tool for any business, pretty much. I say pretty much because there have been concerns over some information in some platforms, or I should say some accounts, not enjoying the profits of the algorithm due to their conversation, due to their messaging, due to their target audience. Although some would consider TikTok to be a low-cost marketing tool that provided a democratized algorithm favoring creativity over budgets, not necessarily, because in some cases there have been some TikTok or TikTokers, right, that have been blocked or have seen issues with getting growth, even though they were creating content very similar to others based on their message. Overall, it's been a very favorable platform for the most part. And always, we got to keep in mind, it's never all or nothing. It's always maybe a majority or a minority, but there's never an all or nothing to anything. Also, enhanced brand visibility. Once again, if you're seeing monthly active users in the billions easily, TikTok is just another format if you're going to look at YouTube and Google search in general, because you're looking at billions of eyes at every single piece of content on there. There's an opportunity to build any type of business. One, or I should say two specific areas of business that have seen significant, and this is a full industry, candle making businesses, apparel businesses, and bakeries. Also, TikTok has been known to really save businesses in some of the toughest markets, in some of the toughest industries, especially in hospitality. Once again, connecting with influencers and connecting with audiences via the influencers. But there's also, of course, shoppable ads. Like I said, they've increased their integrations, but they've already had a few integrations in place, and they were set to launch quite a few more, of course, but this potentially could derail everything with this looming ban in the US and the United States. So what about life without TikTok? What would that look like? What are the alternatives? What are the opportunities? What are the options? Right? A lot of you may have already been on TikTok and you may have tested out, test the waters. Some of you may have stayed away from it, for one reason or another. But as a marketer, or more importantly, overall, as a small business owner, where you have to take that marketing role, you have to put that marketing hat on here and there, it would not be fair to your business to at least understand and investigate what are the opportunities that are there right now, or the opportunities that you may have to turn to. So we come back, we're going to go over the alternatives to TikTok in case that ban goes through and we have TikTok no more. All right, now, y'all. So how do we diversify our portfolio? and keep in mind, in business, you should always have a diversified portfolio. It's like everything, right? It's your finances. It's the same thing. You can't put all your eggs in one basket. Like whenever I heard that term, put your eggs in one basket, I always thought of, okay, so once again, and I think we all logically might look at it like this. What if that basket break, y'all? Then what? I got a bunch of broken eggs. I'm screwed. I have no protein. I'm done. Finito. Okay. So yeah, I know I went off a tangent. It happens all the time. Strategies for adapting. Okay. So first off, when I say diversify your portfolio, this is not just life without TikTok. Start looking at it. If I have a marketing strategy where I'm focusing on one platform, what are two other platforms I could have as a backup or potential? When coming to a marketing strategy, one of the first things you want to do with a marketing analysis is, number one, you want to identify the primary market. The primary market is the market that your people see your content the most. They see your work the most. But most importantly, they're engaging with it, not just seeing it. That's just brand awareness, but they're engaging with it. The one where you can trigger the most engagement. That's number one. But you should never just have one. You should have one that you focus the most attention on, because that's the cornerstone of your business, right? So that could be Reddit, that could be Facebook, that could be Instagram. Give you an example from my business. People were always shocked. I did what a lot of marketers do many years ago, A/B testing and all that stuff initially. for when I first started as a freelancer and started the agency, a few years after that. But people have always been shocked when I always tell them my best platform for performance. When I say my best platform, I say performance. The ones I get the most clients, the ones I get the most engagement, has always been LinkedIn. Okay, I've ran ads on every platform. I think the only platform I haven't run an ad on is TikTok. Seriously. The only platform I've never run an ad on. I ran ads on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, old school Twitter, never X, but Twitter back in the day. Pinterest. Oh yeah, I'm that kind of dude. Google, Bing, and a few others that you probably have never heard of, which is perfectly fine. But what we have to keep in mind is that that's how you identify what really works. You got to test it. Don't just go based on the ears, right? We see the numbers on TikTok, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for your business, because this is what the thing is. The content has to fit the platform. So when you're identifying to adapt, okay, if I have had success on, and remember, this ain't if you've had success. Be real with y'all. And I'm not saying this in fear. I'm going to say this out of straight up. If you don't have a TikTok, this won't fit you at all. And especially if you weren't even looking at TikTok. But if you don't even have a TikTok now, this doesn't fit, because you're not even on the platform. It's not even impacting you. Okay. But if you have TikTok, you got to think about that type of content. It clearly is working for your business. What platforms fit that content and level of engagement? Focus on building outside of any platform. Now, this is what I said I was going to come back to a little earlier. Don't tell me you ain't got no email list. That's right. I said it just like that. Don't tell me you don't have an email list, and don't tell me you don't have a website. Okay, let me fix that. You don't have a website and you don't have an email list. That is a fundamental problem. Your website and your email list should be coming before social media, not afterwards. I'll say it again. Your website and your email list should come before social media. Here's why. I have been with multiple. Let me just keep it a bean. I've been with over a dozen companies where they had no email lists, all social media. And you know what? Somehow it always came back to they struggle with the same thing. Optimizing customer base, returning customers, customer retention, returning sales, regular revenue. Those all are the same thing. I don't care what anyone says. All of those are the same thing. Retaining customers, keeping a consistent growing sales pipeline, and a consistent revenue stream. Those all go hand in hand. Because social media is great for connecting with your consumer base. Don't get me wrong, it is. That's the beauty of it. We already said that about TikTok and just the growth potentials there, right? You put the time and energy into it, it's going to come back to you. Don't think if you just open up a TikTok, boom, you have 1 million followers. No, it doesn't work that way. You actually have to put the time and energy into it. But because, as I said, the algorithm was favoring content creation, if you are in there creating, it's going to give you the traffic, which I'll touch on in one moment about social media in general. But your website and your email list should be your priority. So if you are about to be impacted by this whole TikTok thing and this whole TikTok ban, well, I can tell you right now, I've seen already. I'm not going to put their name. I'm about to say name. I've seen over 1,000. Yes, over 1,000 TikTok accounts with a ton of followers. And they're clearly getting business with no website. It doesn't make any sense. So if you're a small business and you're struggling, you're using TikTok to survive, you need to immediately make your business a website. You need to immediately make a website for your business. One of the first aspects or one of the first elements of that website that you can pump out content is your blog. And you can repurpose blogs into the platforms we're going to talk about now. Now, there's other options, of course, and we're going to talk about these options in other social media platforms. But remember, the nexus of your business should be website, email lists. The email list is to capture that data. You can shoot out surveys, ask questions. Yes, you can do that with social media. Yes, you can. I'm not saying that you can't. But remember, you don't own TikTok. Remember, If TikTok is banned, that's your TikTok account. You don't own that. I'm giving you a great example. If GoDaddy, for whatever reason, goes out of business, and this didn't happen to GoDaddy, but this happened recently. I'm going to give you an example of a bigger name, and then I'll give you the example of course, something similar that did happen. If GoDaddy, for whatever reason, goes out of business, most likely not happening anytime soon. Okay, GoDaddy is still the leader and registrar and a very trusted business in the domain area. You own your domain, and they'll just give it to another registrar because you own that domain. They can't just say, oh, well, we don't want to do it anymore, so we got to give it up. It's your asset. You own that. Your website, you could just take the code of the website and put it on any other hosting service. You have Ionis, you have Bluehost, you have HostGator, you have Hostinger, and you have a slew of others. I mentioned some of the most prominent, the most well-known. And if you don't have a custom coded website or you want an entirely new website, okay, great. Go build a Wix website. Go build a website on Shopify. Go build a website on Squarespace. And here's the example I'm about to give to you. Google used to be a registrar for domains. So people could buy a website domain through Google. Google stopped that mid 2024. And you know what they did? They can't just say, oh, well, you know what, Aaron, all your clients that bought domains through Google, they can't have those anymore. No, because they don't own them. They're the registrar. What they had to do is they had to give them to another registrar that's still in business. And you know who that registrar is? Squarespace. Doesn't mean you have a Squarespace website. It means that Squarespace is the registrar. Okay. So you, the website owner, have your website freaking forever. You own that. It's like a deed to a house. That's why I call it digital real estate. People call it digital assets. Nah, baby, that's digital real estate. When you own something, when you own it. And of course, I've cited this all the time about the potential profits from owning digital real estate. Now, don't get me wrong. This is not in every case, but look at the purchase for business.com. That's crazy. Now, it's going to be harder to do something like that going forward. But thinking about that could be a valuable asset to your portfolio, diversify your business portfolio. Yeah, it's worth it. All right, let's look at these alternatives. So here are the alternatives. And like I said, this is a great opportunity for if you have that blog, repurpose that content. You have your website, repurpose any content to it. Take them TikToks and TikTok them all over the place. Instagram Reels. Instagram Reels, fantastic platform for short form content. Can't go wrong with it. And because of the ban on TikTok or the potential ban on TikTok across the United States, we are going to see a significant amount of traffic go to Reels. But most importantly, we're going to see a significant amount of investment from Meta. And I say that's more important because keep in mind, I mentioned about TikTok's push favoring creators. When we have a platform that actually wants to put time, effort, energy, and money into you as the marketer, as the creator, as the business owner, as the content creator, that's favorable. We don't want them saying, hey, well, you know what? We're going to control only, we want these 5 people, these 10 people, these 100 people, these 1,000 people. And when I give you those numbers, it's either people who are extremely active or it's people who are investing in advertising. I will say this, though, and this has always been my gripe with Meta. This has always been my gripe. And I have no problem saying this because it's only fair. This is the whole purpose why you come to this podcast. Number one is that Meta changed their entire algorithm to focus on people who really put money, literally money, into ads. And it became basically pointless to use Facebook. At one point for a business, it was completely pointless to use Facebook unless you had Facebook groups. And Facebook groups is still a great tool. Not necessarily for what we're talking about when it comes to alternatives of TikTok, but it's still a great tool to build a community. Although, just because, that's one aspect of the platform, it doesn't take away what they've done. The other aspect is, I have never liked the fact that you can't put a link in an Instagram post. Now, I know some people might not care about that, but I've never cared for it. You can make all these posts. And remember, at one time, of course, Instagram only had posts. And they've always wanted you to post. Of course, more important now to do reel stories, things of that nature. But you can't put a link in a post. You can tag another account, which means it keeps you in the platform, but you can't put a link in the post. Never like that. Only because that's just a game to keep you on a platform. It's not necessarily to help you. It's to keep you on a platform, which means it helps them, doesn't help you. Always had a problem with that. Personal note, just had to put that out there. Number 2, YouTube Shorts. Now, YouTube Shorts emerged as a competitor and emerged as competition to TikTok. But I will say this. The thing about YouTube Shorts, and anyone who really does YouTube Shorts and also TikTok, they will tell you it doesn't feel the same at all. And I will admit, it feels different. And when I say feels different, meaning it feels when creating the content, uploading it, producing it, it feels a little different, right? So you want to be considerate of that. And what content you would normally put on TikTok, what would you put on Shorts? You do want to keep entertaining people. So hopefully you found a great way to entertain people. I'm going to keep coming to this one because this is the importance of social media. It's about entertainment. That is the key. That is at least the key to drive some attention. It might not be the key to get all sales and conversions, but it's definitely the key to get some attention. You want to entertain people. And the biggest miss on any platform, this is including your website, is that you're speaking to the wrong audience. I have seen this. I fixed this for a few people where that was their problem. They were talking to the wrong people. I cite this issue with a supplement company because it was the most obvious and the funny thing is, as soon as we had email data, that was the funny part. As soon as we ran ads, we did run ads, but we built an email list. And it was the email list that revealed where the majority of his customers were. Not the social media accounts, not even the orders for the product, because people were having the product delivered in other states. People were picking it up in different counties. It was the advertisement that led to building up the email list where we identified where people actually lived. So make sure when you're entertaining, the entertainment goes to the right audience. If I'm speaking to a bunch of data scientists in this podcast, they're going to look, first off, they're not going to listen because they're like, Aaron, I don't care about half this stuff. If I'm speaking to them from a data scientist perspective, but if I'm speaking to them and they're data scientists and they're focusing on marketing, they're focusing on developing apps, they're focusing on, working with small businesses, then it changes because that's a different target audience. Same profession, different target audience. Snapchat Spotlight. Now, Snapchat Spotlight, once again, one of those platforms that kind of came out, hey, let's not necessarily attack Instagram or TikTok, but let's make sure we, solidify space. Once again, Snapchat was around before TikTok. That's one thing to keep in mind. It's one of the platforms I've done advertisements on. And Snapchat is a great way to connect with a more targeted audience than I would say TikTok. TikTok has that broad appeal feel, while Snapchat has that more niche. Like if I'm really trying to zero down and focus on a very specific group. The one thing about Spotlight, it has a great, and I do mean this, a great retention with Gen Zers. So if you are targeting Gen Z, users, that may be the best alternative for you. Once again, you got to get used to using Snapchat and using that platform. One thing to keep in mind, though, it's very trend driven. Very trend driven. OK, so you got to be up on your socials, and understanding what's going on, what's cracking out there, and what's top of mind and what's top and what topics are really popping off. And this is one of those areas where you do want to have as many in-house people working on your social media campaigns as possible. In-house just doesn't necessarily mean in this case, an actual employee. Could just be somebody in close proximity to your business or your location. Because like I said, if it's a trend, if it's something big that's happening, especially if it's local, hyper local, boom, get it. And I will tell you right now, Snapchat is great in general for hyper local. Any local marketing, Snapchat is a gold mine for, especially with Gen Zers. Triller. Now, they have actually positioned themselves as a direct competitor with TikTok. Unlike the other platforms, once again, that have been around before TikTok, there's some of these features like Instagram Reels. Instagram was around before TikTok. Reels is kind of its alternative or natural alternative to TikTok. Shorts was developed as a response, if you will, to TikTok. Spotlight, very similar. Triller, as a company, is a direct competitor to TikTok. It focuses on music and entertainment content. It focuses on music and entertainment content, which is something to keep in mind when we talk about the businesses that will profit the most from what's going on. I mean, this company went as far as to hire an ex-TikTok exec to be their CEO of the actual app. Right? That says something. When we see companies do that, that shows them typically, hey, not only are we positioning ourselves as competitors, but we're going to go after your former leadership and strategy people. Triller really emerged, similar to TikTok, as a great place to go during the pandemic. So they've continuously positioned themselves as an alternative to TikTok. They haven't seen the growth, nowhere near the growth of TikTok in most cases. But in a few areas, they've seen a lot of opportunities where they've blown up with specifically music, celebrities, and personalities. And that is significant because I've talked about influencers in the past. If they get the right musicians, they get the right artists, and they get the right talent, the ones who are actual influencers, more and more people will come over. And we will see that, right? We will see the people who have the most juice and where they go and who follows where they go. Finally, Pinterest idea pins. Now, I wanted to throw a curveball a little bit here because, people are going to go to platforms like X and they're going to say Blue Sky. Microblogging and short form entertainment content, a lot different. It's a lot different. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of people can be entertained on X. A lot of people can be entertained on Blue Sky, and there's a bunch of other platforms like that. But we're talking about the visual, hyper visual. Notice every platform I talked about, it's all about consuming video, especially. Audio, of course, music, but video especially. And as we see the growth in AI, we want to make sure that we're utilizing those tools that help us create images, video, stuff like that, and really show, not tell, but show off the platform. This is why I'm not talking about platforms like Beehive and Substack and, Medium. And I'm not talking about platforms where they have maybe multiple formats. I mean, all these platforms do have multiple formats, but platforms that focus on really highlighting their multiple formats. I'm focusing on the features of platforms that are really focusing on the image, especially video. Because multimedia storytelling is what Pinterest ideas is all about, and engaging with that, with those videos, engaging with that multimedia. The crazy part about Pinterest ideas is that I'd still say this is one of those areas that has never been properly penetrated, has never been properly, executed and optimized by at least a large number of small businesses. Okay. I shouldn't say never about all businesses, but I mean, there's a lot of small businesses that are missing out on this. The evergreen content on Pinterest is insane. Okay. We have blogs. I do mean we have blogs. We have vlogs. We have websites that literally haven't been touched in years, still getting traffic just because of pins. And they haven't even gone to the Pinterest idea pins, right? Platform that is underutilized by so many businesses is Pinterest. It's great for search. And as we see the growth in AI search, this will become a gold mine. This literally will become a gold mine. I will say this though. If you have an e-commerce brand in a very strong niche, this is going to be your place to be. Maybe if you're going for the strictly, I just want to entertain and dance and stuff like that. Maybe not. I'm being honest with you. Maybe not. Although, if you are a fashion brand, there you go. Technology, e-commerce, do-it-yourself, tutorials. This could be a great place to be, especially if you're trying to be consumed by others in that space, right? Not so much B2C, but more so B2B. One thing to take away is this, and a few actionable tips for you. The influence of TikTok is unquestionable, right? And the potential ban is a reflection of two major things. Okay. We're in a hyper competitive industry, the industry of marketing, especially overall all businesses, but especially in marketing, hyper competitive, where we're trying to get people's attention. Focus on entertaining, engaging, and educating. And you can go with any platform. But the most important platform you should start off with is your website. That's number one. Number two, stay proactive when you're going to adapt, and keep a proactive mindset and be adaptable. Move around, test the waters. Like, I started 4 or 5 accounts on different platforms just to see what's out there, just to see, what are people talking about. This is what you need to do as a business owner, not just a marketer. This is a marketer. Yes, true. Number one, but as a business owner, you never want to get stuck into, I only post on billboards. I only use billboards. That's all I got. I got them billboards. Hey, billboards are great. I champion still using billboards. Although that's an entire market that you don't, or I should say, that never sees that billboard outside of that area, outside of that expressway, outside of that county, that neighborhood, that state. There are millions of billboards I have never seen and I never will see. But maybe if you advertise on social, you open up a social media account, and you learn a few tricks of the trade, once again, you can have an entire gold mine of customers 3 counties away, 3 states away, 3 countries away. Start experimenting with the different platforms. I mentioned a few here, but we have a list in the description of this episode on our YouTube channel. Check those out. Check out those links. Tell me what you think. Also, this is the last piece about, piece of an actionable tip here. Also, never give up on your own platform. And with that, here's a few pieces of information regarding the history of TikTok, where it is right now, its potential growth, and also further analysis on the ban itself. Like I said, I didn't want to go too much into the rise and the controversy of it. I just wanted to give some highlights and some key pieces here. But for you to go to more in-depth research on that area, I focusing on the branding and the content marketing of it all, because there's a lot of people out there who've done great research, great work, and they're far more done far more in-depth work on this one. So check out great documentary or docu-style video on YouTube. One of my all-time favorite channels on YouTube, Magnets Media, did a great video on the insane truth about TikTok. Very well dramatized. Keep that in mind. There's a lot of drama to it, a lot of facts in there, but also a lot of drama to it. So keep that in mind as well. Then there's also a great article by Eve Upton Clark on Fast Company's website. It really, giving you a great scope of what's happened and what's happening to small businesses as they're preparing for this ban. You may be, one of those businesses preparing for this ban. And also, finally, what if it does get banned? Another article in The Independent by Io Dodds, who did a great examination of what happens if this ban does go through. Then, how does that not only impact the businesses, but then also how does that impact the social connection of people? Because TikTok is a place for people to be social and to connect, and it's understandable. This is going to be a hit to a lot of people. I mean, hundreds of millions of people. Once again, 1 billion views, 1 billion active users. I'm sorry, that's more views. 1 billion active users per month. That's crazy. That's insane. So keep that in mind when you're thinking of, well, how many? What's my numbers? What are your numbers of your business? How many, eyes do I need on my business? How many customers do I actually get from TikTok? I challenge you guys on this one. And this is specific for the people who've invested a lot in in TikTok. And I mean a lot, from the advertising, posting, having an account. How much actual business do you get from TikTok? That's another big thing. At least for me, from the marketing perspective. Popularity doesn't always translate to revenue. I'll say that again. Popularity doesn't always translate to revenue. And you need revenue. You need profit, most importantly, but you need at least some revenue, right? How much revenue is generated from your TikTok activities? That is significant, because if you are just seeing popularity, but you're not seeing revenue, that could be a lot of time and energy wasted. I'm just putting that out there. Because that's always, the argument that people have when they say a website and email marketing. They're like, oh my God, that's time and then maybe some money. Keep in mind, I said maybe some money because there's a bunch of free alternatives just to at least get you started. Yeah, but at the same time, is it actually taking money away from anything? Because if you're not seeing revenue from your TikTok activity and you got 1 million followers, I'm sorry, I can't pay my rent with 1 million followers. Okay. Can't pay no mortgage with no 1 million followers. I can't pay my contractors and my employees with 1 million followers. So how much money, or how much specifically overall, how much revenue, not just profit, not just income, how much revenue overall do you get from your TikTok activities? You don't even have to share that with me, but just make sure you're keeping note of that, because that is significant into seeing if it's worth even worrying about, let alone try to find a suitable alternative for it and putting more time and energy into something. So with that, life without TikTok, it could happen. It could not happen. My personal opinion, don't think it's going to happen completely. Things may need to change, but highly doubt that, just because there's so many other variables out there that have there's a lot of contradiction too, but I don't want to get into politics. This ain't about politics. It ain't about that kind of stuff. It's just keeping it real about business. And TikTok does have a lot of opportunities. Once again, opportunities, not just what's there. It has a lot of opportunities, but TikTok has also had a very significant positive impact, as well as some negative drawbacks. But that's with every platform, right? So with that, y'all, check out those links in the description. Make sure you check out those alternatives. I brought them up. Like I said, there's a slew of more alternatives. Those are the top ones I gave you, but there's a lot more in the description on our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining us for the Ambition Show. I'm going to keep it posted. Hey, let's follow each other. Let's see what's going on, and let's see how this all folds out. And let me know in the comments. Let me know what platform you are at least going to look at. In other words, you've actively made an account, or you're already on. You're just saying, hey, I'm just going to move over this. Let me know in the comments which platform you're going to go to. With that, being your host, Aaron Muhammad, appreciate you for watching another episode of The Ambition Show. Have a good one. Best of you, yours. Peace. Now go on. Let's make a TikTok. Let's go make some TikTok. Hurry up before it's gone.